Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I brought a different lesson for you, and that is communication skills. Most of the time people are goes on talking about communication skills and importance of communication skills and how it will be helpful to us and where we can use and what are communication skills, so on. Lot of things are there about communication skills, and if you watch this video lesson you will be getting an idea of what is communication skill and how it is important in day-to-day life of us. Then let me go to first one. Why is communication important? See, communication is important in every person's life. That may be even communication is important between wife and husband also. Not communication is important not only to a corporate person. It is even to a couple also. Communication is very important, and that's the importance of a communication skill. So here you would be getting a question: what will be considered as communication? There's only English has communication skill. Communication is everywhere in every language. That it is. There is no relation between communication and English. Communication skills are existing in all the languages of the world. It is in English, it is in Telugu, it is in Hindi, Urdu, or whatever the language you have that has communication skill. Communication is adding to language. It strengthens our ability of the power of language. It adds to the efficiency of a language. So, what exactly considered as communication? Here, if you watch this slide, you'll be getting something like communication is like listening is called a communication. Smelling is also communication. Something watching, tasting, touching, everything will be considered as a communication. So, in everyday's life, in every sphere, we can able to find communication. Communication is an integral part of us day-to-day life. And here, if we see, communication is two types. That is verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Verbal communication means that which is written, which is spoken, is considered as verbal communication. The use of words, use of numbers, use of symbol will be considered as verbal communication. Like in verbal communication, we have tone, pitch, quality, and rate of speech carries adds more to the language. And non-verbal communication. The second one is non-verbal communication. When we compare to verbal communication, non-verbal communication is most important because almost majority of the communication flow can happen. Effective communication is happen with the non-verbal communication only. That non-verbal communication includes facial expressions, eye contact, then gestures, body language, proximity and touch. Like lot of things will be considered as non-verbal communication. Sometimes we may find in our day-to-day communication also. Like, if a person scrawns or smiles or giggles, it affects us, it pains us a lot than if he says, than saying a word like scolding or using some of the bad words. Then that we can able to see the efficiency of non-verbal communication is more impact. It creates more impact on a listener. And here you will be finding different types of facial expressions which will be considered as non-verbal clues. The first one, you can see these five are the different symbols. The first one and the second, third, and fourth, the pictures of the facial expressions of people is expressing different feelings. Can you guess what is the first picture indicating? Yes, exactly. Second, third, the fourth one, right, it is. Then in non-verbal communication, the most important part is eye contact. Eye contact is very important because when we are addressing a group of people, we need to address them very clearly. For example, if I'm teaching in a classroom and looking at somewhere, even this video also you can watch. Eye contact is that what I am trying to do here. I'm looking somewhere, not exactly looking at camera. Then you will be finding some inconvenience because of my look, eye contact. So here eye contact is that whom you are teaching, you need to look at them. Most of the time the teachers, when they are teaching in a classroom, may watch while they are teaching the front row of the students or back row of the student, or some of the particular students who are very intelligent, are the students who are possess mischievous behavior in the class, so on. But they are never tried to glance all of the class at a time. You need to maintain eye contact with each and every student while you're teaching in a classroom. So that is will be giving you to control every student in the classroom. Even not that, while you are addressing, that you can able to attract the people by looking at them, by watching frequently. So that is the importance of eye contact. And sometimes gestures which we are possessing, which are illuminating in our face with our hand movement, may attract the listener. So we should be very careful about gestures. Suggestible gestures are there. We need to follow them, and we should be mind about our body language every time, because sometimes my face is very good, but I try to rub somewhere or scratch somewhere. Like I try to do all these things. Or I'm trying to adjust my shirt, or I try to adjust my pant while I am teaching. I'm trying to adjust my hair or trying to adjust my goggle, something like that. These are not expected gestures while we are teaching. While we are teaching, somebody has the habit of like trying to use their finger and making sound with like using sometime like this. These are the different gestures which are also playing a key role while we are presenting, like eye movement, lip movement, and lot of things are there. Different gestures we are exhibiting in front of the students while we are presenting, while we are lecturing, while we are delivering a presentation. Like, these are conveying two types of messages. These are conveying a good message, and sometimes it creates inconvenience to the person who is addressing us, so are listening us. So we need to uh, exhibit the good signs, good gestures from our side when it passes a positive communication, or it communicates in a negative way. And body language kinesthetics. If you watch this posture of one of the American presidents, George Bush, can you guess what it stands for? Watching and listening, observing, right? It is. Most of the time, we may not be patient while listening. Most of the people doesn't possess this. And it just, if we move on to the earlier one, the body language conveys a message of the speaker. Unintentionally, it is passing some information. Be mindful about your cultural differences also. For example, sometimes I can show, or like I can able to, like, this is also one, and this is also a symbol. Pointing somebody with a pointed finger is also adjusted, but we could be mind about our body language, because some cultural differences are there, and using pointing somebody, or appreciating somebody. If you are going to pointing somebody, don't point with your pointed finger. Point somebody with your hand like this only, not exactly with pointed finger, because of cultural differences only. And here you will be finding more about this. You can able to understand what he has in his mind. And in communication, a few things are there which are distracting the communication, because we know that communication is a flow which happens between a sender and a recipient. I'm the sender here, you are the recipient. So, and when it is going to reach you, something will be turning as a hurdle in our communication. Here, the communication barriers are inattention, poor presentation, premature evaluation, emotions, inconsistency, physical barriers, insufficient warming, individual differences, lack of feedback, inference, and insecurity, sound, and everything, where we are sitting, where we are standing, where we are presenting. Sometimes a light is also creating a problem in communication. So we should be very careful about all these communicative barriers while we are presenting. We should take care of all these barriers. If we are taking care about all these communicative barriers, that communication, passing of message, passing message is clear and reaching the recipient effectively, while receiving also something we may find here when they are receiving, distortion is there, emotions, inconsistency, and like the person who is trying to receive, the level of receptivity, all these things will be playing a role in communication and will be considered as communication barriers. So we should be very careful about all these communication barriers for effective communication. Then communication barriers still is a slide which is repeated. And here is an example is given for communication barrier. But the thing what it might be, a woman went for a walk one day and met her friend, whom she had not seen, heard from, or heard of in 10 years. After an exchange of greetings, the woman said, "Is this your little boy?" And her friend replied, "Yes, I got married about 6 years ago." The woman then asked the child, "What is your name?" And the boy said, "As my father's." "Oh," said the woman, "then it must be Peter." See, here, the woman asked, "Is this your child?" This is not a question which is raised by the women, but she said, "I'm married 6 years ago." And the boy was asked, "What is your name?" But he said, "As my father." This is a sort of communication which creates inconvenience. I couldn't say, if somebody asked, "Where is your nose?" I couldn't show by turning my finger and show, "This is my nose." You need to show exactly time, place, and the direction. Everything will be playing crucial role in communication. So we could be mind about all these. And here is a great quote by T.S. Eliot, that people change. Thank you. Good. Active listening. And communication part, listening is playing a vital role. Active listening is playing that, acting as listening, active listening. Active listening is that we are taking part in every part of communication. There's not acting, this is active listening. Letting a person and you have heard them both literally and emotionally. We could able to understand every emotion of the person. We could able to understand literally that what he's trying to say. That we could able to understand. If we understand, it will be considered as active listening. That I'm listening, just I put my head on bench and listening. That if you are saying I'm listening but not maintaining eye contact is lost here. Encourages further discussion and checks accuracy of measures. So if you are kind enough to pay attention to the presentation, if you are watching, if you are listening, it will be encouraging the person who is presenting it. It strengthens the moral fiber and it brings a new spirit in him to communicate further, to give new information and to give more idea, to strengthen the communication, to strengthen the message. In several ways, that this active listening will be helping us. And your active listening expresses empathy. Like if you are not paying a proper attention to the presentation, it is nothing but empathy, that you're not showing interest, you lack of interest in presentation. Like once again we can consider it as communication distortion. This is a Chinese word, optimal listening. Optimal listening is happening like you while you're listening, you need to follow this SOLER. Soler. So when you're listening, you sit or stand squarely in relation to the person. The person who is talking to you opposite, you need to sit in direction of that person. Couldn't sit opposite or sit back to him and listening something. Like a person who is addressing us could pay attention, could look at him. Then this is the first one, is open position. That we know that standing posture or sitting postures are conveying some of the message. Folding hands, putting hands backside, like these are passing some information. Here, while you're communicating with a person, you need to sit, stand in an open position. Even the listener could do the same thing. Lean slightly towards the person. And if you are communicating, just bend a head, not exactly a hunchback person, slightly bend and try to maintain eye contact and be relaxed. Then it is nothing but you are positive. Your communication is forward and you are showing enthusiasm and communication, like it is passing a good information, and this communication will become an effective one. Then I said several times, I use the word, what is effective communication? And effective communication is an effective communication will become one while you're presenting. That or before to presentation, you need to prepare, review topic in previous contact, inquire, listen actively, evaluate. You need to do all these things. Then it will become an effective communication. So when a teacher is teaching in a classroom, he goes on speaking, or he goes on pouring a lot of information into the minds of the student, but finally if he's asked a question again, the students may not answer the teacher. Like we could be very alert, because several times the listener may not pay attention. For that, we need to check every time. You need to ask the question, do you understand? Are you following me? Is it okay? Like, are you, is it audible? So, do you have any question? Like, it try to attract the attention of the listener, and here listen actively. Like after the end of presentation, we need to ask for this. There's no could not turn as a customary one. We could take a genuine, honest feedback, and if we have any of the follies and problems, we need to correct those through a proper feedback. Then we need to evaluate, draw conclusions, what you can do better, plan for the next time with a proper feedback only. Then here is a small question is given to you. Please, just once you go through this question, answer me fast. Once a farmer has sowed pumpkin in his farm. Daily in the morning, he visits it and enjoys by looking at the small and bigger pumpkin plants. A few days have passed. Now the pumpkin plants are flowering with big and small pumpkins. One day he got a different idea. Immediately he wants to put it in practice. He took a box of square shape and placed a tiny pumpkin in the box. Came to home. In the evening, he got a call from his son who lives in America, who requested him to stay for a few days with him. The next day, the farmer has started to his son in USA, and he is with his son for a month and back to his house. When he reached his house, he is curious to know about the condition of pumpkin which he was placed 30 days ago in a box. He has rushed to the pumpkin farm. Directly, eagerly, he looks at it. And now just you imagine, can you imagine what might happen to that pumpkin? Imagine. And here is a question. Exactly. What did he find there? What might happen to the pumpkin? Think. You'll be getting several answers to this question. Depends on the receptivity, level of understanding. You can able to find several answers to this question. If you imagine as a farmer, you'll be getting a different answer. If you are getting an answer as a listener, you'll be finding a different answer. It depends. There is no one answer for this question. There are several answers. Think differently. And here also one story which goes like this. Hit the king to grab a bag of gold coins. This is also one of story which we can use to communicate, pass better communication, to strengthen communication skills among the students. We can use such questions. This is exactly the story, but we can give some of the question based on this, which cannot be expected. And what the reality, the real thought to strengthen communication among the students, among the peer groups, to ignite students' minds. We can able to use these type of questions. Let me read it for you. Once upon a time, there lived a king who had a habit of visiting nearby Sarovanas and spare there for 2-3 days and hunting and enjoying. One fine season, he has visited nearby mango groves along with his courtiers. As the king was walking through mango trees, enjoying small and big fruits, all of a sudden a stone has hit his forehead. The king has drenched with dripping blood from his forehead. Immediately his guards rushed here and there, and presented a tiny boy who was pelting stones to mangoes. All the courtiers said with one voice, "Majesty, punish him severely for hurting you." The king has ordered the soldiers to produce the boy in the royal court tomorrow. And the next day, all the courtiers, along with the people from the kingdom, has gathered in the court to listen the benediction of the king. The king has clapped. An attendant has handed over a bag of gold coins to the king, and from him to the boy. The furious minister stood and said, "My lord, have you gone mad? Instead of punishing the boy, why you are presenting a bag of gold coins?" So the king is not furious. The king did not lose his temper. Just he asked the minister, "Tell me why I am presenting a bag of gold coins to this boy." You'll be finding these are the two questions for discussion. Why did the king has given a bag of gold coins to the boy? If you are in the place of the king, what do? If you are providing your student such type of questions, it will enlighten their analyzing power. It will strengthen their communicative power. There are no single answer for these questions. Depends on the type of learner and their receptivity, and as per their perception, they have different answer to these questions. Like you can able to find innovative different things while you're communicating. The ultimate intention of communication is passing the information effectively and communicating effectively. Like if you follow at least few of these tips, you can able to communicate effectively. Thank you for watching my video.